So if we can straighten those cameras up. Hey guys, Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO, and we are back at Maple Street Biscuit Company. I tell you what, if you guys have not tried their maple tap coffee, beautiful flavor, it's got just a great aroma, and yes, they are a supporter of the podcast, so I just want to say that. Also, Eddie Notes, you can go to eddinotes.com/Troy. You can check out what they are offering over there. I tell you what, our Amazon feed is now blowing and going, so we're excited about that and where it is headed. Hey, you know, I've had a great week. We've been back in town, had some great business partner, Enrique Garibay flew into town. If you guys need any type of live traffic, you guys should go check out mlmleads.com. Lead generation business has changed. You know, I got into that business in 2000. Ran the world's largest lead generation support and training company for 4 or 5 years, and watching where things were at the beginning of the 21st century and where it is today. Listen, leads suck, okay? It really is in traffic. If you want to make this thing work, you need traffic flowing to your funnel, flowing to your lead capture page, whatever it is. So just throwing a little plug in there for Enrique. Because things have changed. That's just the way it is. But it's been a great week. I've got Plain Joe Studios flying in today. They are one of the premier design, customer experience, architectural firms, if you will. And I don't mean that in architect-like buildings. I mean in creating that experience for people. They've worked with the likes of Disney, some of the largest churches, and they are helping us as we design a new cafe theme here on the island. It's going to be a powerful deal. Giving back to the community is a big thing. That's what Maple Street does. That's what some of the other sponsors do. So we're excited about that. Today, I want to talk about creating distinction in your brand. And this is something that is tough to do. You know, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what sales profession you might be in. Creating that distinction, something that's going to take you to the next level, isn't something that you can do overnight. It's not something that is it's simple, but it's not so much easy because it makes you think. You've got to dig deep. You know, as I look across the different niches that are out there these days, I mean, with social media, the internet, we see all kinds of cottage industries, all kinds of what we call side gigs, side hustles. So when I look at this, I say, okay, how do you create distinction? Especially here, let me give you one. How do you create distinction when your company may be using the same formula that another company is doing? Maybe you guys are really penetrating into this niche. You know, we see this in the ketone movement. We see this in the smart coffee movement, the happy movement, coffee movement. We see this in health and wellness, weight loss, fat loss, whatever the case is. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you become that next brand, if you will, that the people love, that the people want to be a part of? That's the question you've got to look at. And it's not that easy. You know, I mean, heck, let's just be realistic for a minute. When you think about it, and I know this has crossed my mind, I don't know how many times. What causes one company to explode and another company to flounder? When the formula is the same, passionate leadership is the same, field leadership seems to be the same. What is it that will create one to explode and one to not? What is it that creates a brand that implodes on itself? Why do some companies seem to just continue to grow and become iconic brands that we all talk about? And why is it that some start out really hot and fizzle away? And as I've studied this over and over, as I spent some time this week talking with some dear friends of mine and just chilling, you know, that one thing that we get to do is, now that we have been blessed to see the influence grow with our own personal brand, what we stand for, I get a lot of opportunities just to chat with people and to really dig into their brain, to ask them the same questions that I ask you guys. You know, What is it? How do we create that distinction? What is it that you want to be distinguished from? Think about this for a minute. I'm going to use a dear friend of mine. She sits on the board of directors with me over at the Social Networking Association, Michelle Barnes. Michelle has been a single mother raising two boys, and I've watched her distinguish herself as this professional businesswoman, and at the same time, she's been this mom. And she's created something that's not so much her brand as it is what she stands for. She always makes time for her son. So when she's out there on the social media and she's building her business and stuff, I'm sure she gets a bunch of weird trolls and stuff that makes comments. But here's what I see. I see other women who are striving to be like her, meaning they want to be a really, really good mom, but they also want to be an independent businesswoman, growing something that they can be proud of, growing something that's going to sustain their independence if they remain single. It's one of those things. So using Michelle, and you can look her up on Facebook, when you see how she's done this, it's been amazing. One of my dear, dear friends, mentors, Jeff Weisberg, has done this. He's been the stay-at-home dad, raised both of his boys. They're now in college. He's got a beautiful relationship with a wonderful woman. He's out doing something a little bit different, but he was stay-at-home dad. And he built this, and he would show other men that are going through, whether they wanted to get out of the career 9 to 5, whether they'd been downsized, whether they'd lost their job, exactly how to do that. And as I studied them, as I've studied large brands, as I've studied some of the other great people in my life, I've narrowed this down to 4 things. And I think this is very important. I hope you guys get something out of this, but I want you to write this down. If you want to create a distinction in who you are, what you stand for, where you're going, the people that you want to attract, then I think these 4 principles will help you like it's helped me and how it's helped hundreds of thousands of others, both in Main Street America, Main Street Greece, Main Street Great Britain, how it's helped brick and mortar businesses to guys and gals that are driving for Uber or maybe run Airbnbs. These 4 principles is what's going to help you take your brand to the next level. It literally is what's helped Maple Street become what they are. Cracker Barrel just bought Maple Street. I think it was like $35 million. Here's a young company, 7, 8 years old. Cracker Barrel had tried a similar concept and it had failed. Why did their concept fail? Maple Street take off. These 4 principles right here is what this company and many others use to take their dream from their garage, from the drawing board, from the whiteboard to reality. You guys can do this. Number 1, clarity. What is your message? What do you stand for? What is your why? I'm throwing out these questions to you. I want you to think. What problem do you solve? You need to know the clarity of your message. I'm not talking about the message of your company. Let's go back to a second to, I'll pick on Happy Coffee way too much. Let's pick on the ketone. Okay, you guys know that I have a client, a very large client, started the conversation. They were the original direct sales company that exploded the ketone movement. Today, there's all kinds of competition. Some of their competition actually licenses the BHB salts, and they're out there making a product that some would say is the exact same product. But what makes my client, Prove It, different than other clients, other companies that are in the ketone business? They have a clarity of message. As they started out, they were the first, and that was the message that they had. But they drove home what ketones could do to people. Now they call themselves the original. As they grow, as they move, they've gone from better to incredible to focusing on the message of you need a better life. Now, I'm seeing this a lot in some of the other companies. I've got a former client that says, what's your I am message? What's that impact message that you're doing? Everybody knows, but you have to have that clarity of message. What is it that you want to accomplish? When you know that, That's principle number one. That starts you to build something else. So let's take this down to an individual. What is it that you, as a person, as the individual brand, as the youpreneur, if you will, what do you stand for? What problem are you solving? That's not, guys, that's not easy. I had a new friend of mine at the DS Edge last week. After I asked that question, he came up to me and said, Troy, I know the answer. It's Jesus. Okay, I don't think Jesus is the problem. That might be the solution. See where this is going? Don't mistake the solution for the problem that you're solving. What problem do you solve? What is your why? And listen, man, this is lots of people mistake the question, what is your why? And they say, it's my children, it's my wife. No, it's not. If it was, you wouldn't be home popping a beer and watching the football game. So that's not even the right answer. I'm not giving you the right answer. What I'm saying is you have to dig deep to understand that. It's kind of like saying, who's your competition? Seems simple, seems easy. When that question was presented at a Harley-Davidson marketing convention, the audience started saying Kawasaki, Honda, Indian. And the chief marketing officer started smiling. And he said, we have two main competitors, golf and Disney. Silence. He said, the reason that Disney is one of our biggest competitors is because people use their disposable income. They use all that money that they have extra that they've saved to go to Disney instead of buying a Harley. He goes, golf is our biggest competitor because most of the people that ride our bikes ride on the weekend. But instead of riding their bike, they're paying for green fees over here. We have to take them from Disney. We have to take them from golf. And we have to get them to want to buy a bike. You have to have a clarity of message. You got to know who your competitor is. And that kind of goes hand in hand. How do you really know what problem you're solving if you don't even know who your competitor is, if you don't know who your customer is, for that matter? Think this one through. Number two, you've got to get creative. Creativity helps you distinguish who you are. When we look at these great brands, when we look at the ketones, we look at Happy Coffee, we look at weight loss, fat loss, we look at, we can look at the sexual enhancement Viagra or whatever they call that stuff, whatever, I probably used the wrong term there, but whatever it is, what distinguishes you from other people? Let's look at Orlando for a second. Orlando is the theme park capital of the world. Do I go to Universal Pictures? Do I go to Disney? Do I go to the water parks? Do I go to SeaWorld? Or do I just head on over to the beach? It's only an hour away and just chill. What creativity can you use that will bring people to you? That's important because you have to be you. Understand. And Chris Ducker coined this phrase, but you are the youpreneur. It's your personal brand. So what is it that sets you apart? That creativity. I'm the Beachside CEO. We also have an edition called The Tempered Night where we talk about marriage and relationships. We've distinguished ourselves based on the problem that we're trying to solve. Well, and you may ask, well, Troy, how does Beachside CEO solve a problem? Let's look at those two words for a minute. Beachside CEO. Now, the fact that I live at the beach, live on an island, makes that pretty simple. But when you dig a little bit deeper, time management is something that people struggle with. So the lack of time in a person's life is really where we came up with that idea of Beachside CEO. You're able to live a chilled life and still run the company. We have contractors that we work with worldwide. We have a small team that we work with internally, and we have clients all over the world. And yet, if you call me on my phone, The odds are when I'm in the car, you'll get a do not disturb message letting you know I'm either driving down the beach with Paige, hanging with the kids, or I'm on the other line with a client. Because my life includes all that. When I look at Beachside CEO and you look at my life, you look at my daily agenda when I'm at home, okay, I'm up by 5. I'm focused on me time till about 8 o'clock. At about 8 o'clock, we start focusing with clients. 7 o'clock, 3 days a week, we do these shows. We start that going, we start that moving. But at the same time, about 2:30 in the afternoon, everything goes into the SUV. Lena jumps in the car with me, and 4 days a week, I'm either taking her over to the gym about an hour and a half away, or she practices for 3 hours, or Paige is doing that. So think about that. Hour and a half there, maybe I can do it in an hour if traffic's not bad. 3 hours of practice, an hour back. That's 5 hours a day. Then I'm not even at the office, not even at the house. But thank you, Starbucks. They are not a sponsor, but hey, we got plenty of offices everywhere, so it works out really good. So when you look at this, I know what we stand for. We got a little bit of creative when we started building out the brand, and you have to do that the same way. Number 3, communication is the key. Now, you don't have to do videos like we do constantly. You don't have to have a podcast if you want to. But here's what you do need to do. You need to be communicating constantly with your team. You got to be communicating with your customer. Remember, number 1 was clarity. Your clarity of message has to be communicated out. Okay. Everything you do should line up with that communication. The internal processes, what you teach your customer service people, what each brand, what each message is on your product, whatever it is you're doing personally has to be distinguished. Richard Brook, one of my mentors, is very, very good at this. He has his 4-year career. He has his other book on lighting your hair on fire. I forget but it's powerful. But each one of those is distinguished. His branding for that is distinguished. Okay. His podcast is distinguished. Heroes of MLM, totally everything is distinguished, but yet it lines up with the message that he's putting out. So you got to have constant communication, and that communication has to be solid, dead on, and match up with everything else. And number 4, this is the big one, and this is the one that I think a lot of personal brands miss, and that's the customer experience. Okay, this isn't about customer service. This is about your customer experience. Zappos is phenomenal at this. Starbucks is phenomenal at this. Apple is phenomenal at this. Maple Street is phenomenal at this. You're an individual brand. You are focused on you, but you have customers. Now, some of you say, Troy, I don't really focus with my customers. My company does that. Well, then you're just double, triple dumb, because you should be the one building the communication with your customers, not just the company. You should be building communication with your organization, your sales team, not just the company. If you want to know why internet marketers succeed the way they do, here's why. They communicate not just one time, but they're constantly communicating, not just with prospects, but with people that they've already closed, with people that are in their organizations. They do JVs with other internet marketers. This is something that you direct sellers could learn a lot about. Internet marketers collaborate. They don't compete against each other. So they're constantly working with each other. They realize they're in the same pond, they're in the same pool, they're going after the same fish. So they learn how to actually split that fish in two, and all of them get a bite of it. Think that one through. So these are 4 of the principles that you need to be able to build that personal brand, to create that distinction that's going to change you and make you rise up above all the noise out there so that you can dominate in the niche that you're focused on. Hey guys, stay strong, stay humble. You've been listening to a voice in Main Street America.